The problem for me is the class of 23. For some schools, the class of 22 is a real problem. They may have a lot of seniors, and maybe a lot of those guys want to come back. So how do you go recruit? You don't know how many scholarships you have. It's hard to ask a kid right now, hey, in 2 years, are you going to want that COVID year? These guys are just trying to be great today. And so it's very complicated and frustrating. And, we put a proposal out there as ACC coaches. We even said, okay, well, just maybe give us 5. And they can, and not that you go get 5 more scholarships, but just if 5 guys that were on scholarship on your team came back, you would at least have a little leg room. So it's a very frustrating thing it's a great thing, but it's frustrating. And this will go through like 24 or whatever it is from a roster management standpoint. But we'll all have to deal with it.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the Georgia that you see.
What's up, man? How you doing?
The Georgia that you see now.
Back in the Alabama days right here.
Flashbacks. Huh?
Flashbacks. Whoa.
The Georgia that you see now, Kirby Smart's Georgia versus the last Georgia you saw against Mark Richt. Some 10,000-foot observations about the program last time.
Last Georgia I saw kicked our butt right there in Athens. We got smashed. And so hopefully it won't be that version. They were really, really good. But, different day and age. Man, Kirby's done an unbelievable job. I mean, they may be the best team in the country. I mean, they've recruited well. They're a crazy play away from, already having a national championship under their belt. And, so we have a lot of knowledge of their program. We recruit against them. The state of Georgia is a huge recruiting area for us, and obviously for them. So, I think that, style of play is a little different if you just, comparing them to that last team. College football has evolved. I was as 14 maybe when we were down there. College football has evolved a lot in the last 7 years. And but I think at the end of the day, it still comes down to elite players on both sides and a few plays, small margin for error, and, teams built in the trenches.
One of those guys, elite players, the guy you had, DK, obviously, the guy you gave your blessings to, obviously left the program in some difficult circumstances, you wished him well. Now he's at Georgia. Is there any concerns about team knowledge? And I guess secondly, just your thoughts against facing him.
Well, I mean, he's a great player, so it's a tough challenge because he's another great one, and love DK, and pulling for him, as I said the other day, to hopefully have a great year, and hopefully have a whole great season except one game. But he's DK's a young man I love deeply, and sometimes there needs to be a change, for both sides. I don't know if anybody's ever been divorced or anything like that, but sometimes, it's just best to go a different path. But I'm happy that he's at a good place, a great program. He'll be well coached there, and I just want to see him finish well. And it's no different than you'll see more and more of this with the transfer portal the way it is. It's no different than the NFL. Tom Brady's got to play the Patriots this year. So hopefully DK don't have quite the intel that Tom Brady may have. But I'm sure his familiarity is a plus for him. But we're familiar with him too. So.
Yeah, but I understand why you're opposed to the playoff system expanding. Realistically, there's probably maybe a dozen programs going in every season to have a realistic shot to make a 14 playoff.
Yep.
So what would you say?
I would agree with that. Going into it, there might be 10 or 12 teams that have a real shot, but at the end of the season, there's not 12 teams good enough to win it. That's what I mean by that.
So what would you say to all the programs who are not included in that dozen, let's say, who think, okay, a 12-team playoff would now give us a shot to get in? Do you understand their? Sure,
absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. I certainly understand that. And so now it's all about the playoff. But my main thing is that it was never about that. It was always about getting the postseason, having a great season. Winning your league, winning your rivalry games. Having the best finish you could be, and if you're fortunate enough to get in that conversation, it would play out, and that's what made college football unique. And I think the more we go, then the more it's just the NFL. And so, now you got guys opting out. Nobody opted out before the 14 playoff. And I'm on record, I wasn't for the 14 playoff. I thought the BCS got it right. And I've been a part of every scenario, and when it to the 14 playoff, it's like, well, you better worry. Well, and that's what, all of a sudden, it's all about the playoff. And now you go to 12. It's really about the play. I would predict you probably have kids opt out of the playoffs, especially if you expand the season. So, whatever system, all the smart people working on it, whatever they put out, we're going to get ready to go play and go compete, and embrace whatever. But I think we, as I said in there, we need to move past having the conversation of what Coach Swinney thinks or Coach Saban thinks or whoever, what they think about expansion. I don't think it matters, because I think that train's out the gate. I think the conversation now is what's best for the player. I think we all can know that this will be more money. I think it would be foolish to not recognize that. And maybe the fans, this is what they want. I don't know. I assume this is what they want. But adding games, adding practices, lengthening the season is not what's best for the player. And that's how our players feel, and that's how I feel. So, okay, let's expand it. Let's figure out if that's what we want to do, then how we're going to do that. Let's find a way to protect the bowls. Maybe we incentivize the bowls. I don't know. Because all those teams, there's a lot of teams that have zero chance to win a national championship. And so let's still nurture the tradition of college football, and let's find a way to save the bowl games. And let's if we're going to expand more games in the playoffs, then we need to talk about less games in the regular season. It's my opinion.
You think even in a 12-team field, there's still only a finite number realistically?
There's no question.
Yeah.
This isn't a tournament sport. In this sport, you make this a tournament sport. It's just like who's not hurt, who's the last person standing. This is high level of competition once you get to that stage, and the total. And these guys, and again, this isn't pro football. These guys have aspirations to play pro football, and so now that you keep going, you keep adding, and with NIL and all that, some of these guys, they're not going to play. Yeah, talked to him at there. We flew in same time yesterday, so we actually got a car. It's fine. It's totally fine. We've been on the phone together, conference calls together, we committee together, talked to him a bunch of times. I have no issue with him. Say that one more time. We're just better up front in the offensive line. We've developed well, and we've recruited well. We've got some new pieces there, and that's probably the biggest thing. And then getting our guys back healthy in the defensive line, getting Xavier Thomas where he is, Justin Foster coming back. That's probably been the biggest thing.
Dabo, obviously the news with Bobby Bowden, thoughts on what Bowden's meant to the game of football?
I couldn't even begin to do it justice to speak what he's meant to the game of football and to so many men's lives now, but young people and coaches, and just no telling how many people that he never met who he influenced in a very positive way. And I'm fortunate that I got a chance to meet him and know him well and intimately well, and I've known for a couple weeks what was going on, and so many great memories of him. But for me, he was the model. He was such a great example of, not losing sight of the main thing. A man of faith, a great husband, a great father. He loved his community. He was loyal. He was committed. He loved his players, and he was funny. He had a grace to him. He was tough, and the model of consistency. I mean, the absolute model of consistency. But he is a special human being, and I sat in my office with him, I guess it was 2 seasons ago,